Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your Louisville Town Council May 14th regular Town Council meeting. It's Thursday evening in most part of the world, and we're glad you're sharing some of that evening with us here tonight to hear your town business. We've got a lot of we think are exciting things and certainly important things to talk about this evening. We'll begin this evening, I guess, Bo, we can have our customary invocation. If you would like to lead us through that, that would be great.
Very good. Let's pray. God our Father, we give you thanks for this absolutely glorious day that you've given to us. And we thank you for all of these folks gathered together virtually tonight, both the town council, your staff, and the citizens of this wonderful town of Louisville. We are so thankful for it. And we thank you for the challenges that we have that we continue to go through, because it allows us to rely upon you and to rely upon one another as we go through and solve the problems and deal with the issues that we have to encounter during this time. So we ask you to be with us during the course of this meeting, to be with us during this time, and to help us to make good and practical and wise and helpful decisions for this town. We ask all these things in your name. Amen. I apologize for that ringing of the phone.
Well, Bo, they say your prayers are answered, so maybe that's what was happening.
Yeah, we'll see if that's not him or her on the phone.
There we go. Very good. Council members, we'll have our roll call. I wish we could do it our customary way, but I think we would all be talking at one time, so let me just go ahead and introduce us. Councilman David Smitherman is here. Councilwoman Jane Welch. Councilwoman Jean Marie Foster, Councilmember Ken Sadler, Councilwoman Melissa Hunt, and Councilmember Fred Franklin. All of our council members are present and accounted for. And in addition to that, we have town staff, Manager Hank Perkins, Town Attorney Bo Half, Finance Director Pam Morrell. I'm having to go back and forth across this screen to see where everybody is, ladies and gentlemen, so it's always a challenge for me. And Town Planner, Stacy Tolbert. Did I miss anybody? No, yes, Town Clerk, Mrs. Joyce Walker. Very good. Folks, we've had a couple of additions to the agenda since it went out. I think maybe on your copy, you saw the addition under the consent agenda, which is accepting the resignation of Wayne Hutchins from the Louisville Utilities Committee. We also have an addition under new business. This will be, we're going to add a new item D under new business, and this will be a resolution to set a public hearing for Thursday, June 4th, 2020 for the rezoning of the community center property to IP. Ms. Walker, has there been any additional changes or revisions that we need to be concerned about? Her head is shaking, so.
No, I couldn't reach the button, but no, there are no other additionals.
Very good. With that, council members, any additions that you have? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve. Ms. Hunt makes the motion. Dr. Sadler makes the second. Any further discussion?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Foster.
My comment has to do with, you are adding it under number 11, new business, you said, is the resolution?
Yes.
All right, so we were planning on having discussion under item A. So if it makes sense to pull out the document that I referenced earlier before the meeting started, could we do it at that time?
Help me understand, because I've not seen your document.
So the resolution to set the public hearing could be informed by the timeline that we all put together. Does that sound right, Stacy, Hank, Joyce?
I guess it could. I think I could take a crack at just sort of trying to first explain what's going on and why, and then if we need that, we can certainly spill into it.
Okay.
Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, I was also looking over and I didn't see any reference to the conversation or the follow-up or in regards to the Yadkinville Road, Vienna Village stuff that we had talked about. A briefing.
Hank, is that in your manager's report by chance?
Looks like Joyce is trying to give it to you, but hold on a second.
Yeah, I think the manager will be talking about that under the manager's report.
Okay, currently it states none. So, I don't know if we
Yeah.
need- Okay.
Yeah.
A couple of items, I think. We're going to have a Part F update. We're going to have a Vienna Village update. So
Okay, thank you.
make note on those under manager's report. Jean Marie, I'm not sure we got resolved what you were talking about.
So you are suggesting to add the first item under new business, the resolution. And I think the timeline that we had worked on under the item A in the existing agenda possibly should come before that resolution that you're suggesting. Thinking of sequencing.
What would you like to call that? I know that you all have been working on something, but I'm not familiar with where that fits into the plan here. What would you like to call that?
Hank, I need your help here because you were wanting to do it either under manager's report or under that resolution.
Honestly, I'm trying to think of what to call it. I know what you're talking about. What Ms. Foster is doing is she's kind of laid out a few of the projects, a couple for the planning board, and then some with the for the town council themselves, and sort of have them side by side on a spreadsheet, and with that we're able to compare the relative dates from one process to another.
Okay.
That's
It's sort of a committees and boards activities report.
right. And it also was going to tie in Mr. Franklin's request last time to talk about when council would be meeting. So it's sort of the whole calendar, which includes community center to all of the.
How about we call this committee restart report?
Right. That's
Okay.
fine.
It's more or less a timeline spreadsheet, right?
Right, but it
Yes, ma'am.
impacts, the reason I brought it up, Mr. Mayor, is because of the impact of the asking for a resolution for a public hearing. I think under the first item of new business, it would make sense to talk about that after we go through the timeline.
Okay, well, let's take our best swing at it. Let's just make that the new A in life,
Perfect.
and we'll call that planning timeline. Or if there's a better word for it, let's just do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, with those three changes, I believe we have a motion and we have a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin? Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Mayor is aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Hank, you want to walk us through the consent agenda, please?
Yes, this evening's consent agenda consists of 3 items. First is Resolution 2020026, accepting and approval of monthly financials for the 8 months ending March 31st, 2020. Next is the approval of council special budget meeting minutes from April 20th, 2020. And lastly, Resolution 2020031, accepting the resignation of Wayne Hutchins from the Louisville Utilities Committee with an effective date of May 8th, 2020.
Very good.
To approve.
Mr. Franklin makes a motion to approve. Dr. Sadler makes the second. Ms. Orell, are there any surprises that we should know about?
No, none at all.
Very good. Life is hunky-dory. Thank you. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, the consent agenda are items that we ordinarily take as a group. Any council member can ask for any of those items individually to be pulled out and discussed and voted on. In this case, we have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda as it is. Any further discussion? Very good. Mr. Smitherman?
Approve.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. At our briefing, ladies and gentlemen, we talked a little bit about, just mentioned Aiden and Desiree Morales. They are members of our Student Leadership Committee, and from time to time, we have called your attention to some of the wonderful things that these young people are doing in our community. We hope it's as a result of their participation in our Louisville Leadership Committee, but I think it probably more likely comes from coming from great families and having good hearts and lots of compassion. But Desiree and Aiden have been working on a project to do face masks for healthcare workers. And they've been very successful, and I'd like to recognize them for the work that they're doing in our community. Thank you, you two. I know your mom and dad are very proud of you. Well, this will be a little awkward, ladies and gentlemen, because this is a time when we ordinarily do our public forums. And while you're not present to be able to do that, there was a call-in number that we had that you could call in. We published that along with the notice of this meeting. Hank, do we have anybody calling in?
No, sir, we have no calls.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you can also make comments should you wish to, and you can send those to written comments. You can send those by email to townclerk@louisvillenc.net. That's townclerk@louisvillenc.net, and we'll make them part of our record this evening. Okay, now we're down to the infamous new A on our new business schedule. Ms. Foster?
Thank you for your indulgence, folks. For purposes of council, as well as the folks who are watching, this was going to be a manager update, correct, Hank? And what we decided as part of the subgroup I'll reference, which is Stacy, town planner, Joyce, town clerk, myself, and Hank, we've been working on a board and committee reboot, which was on your agenda a few weeks ago. The intent of that reboot was to say, boy, what do we need to do about our boards and committees? So what we decided to do was say, hey, let's reach out to them, find out what the leadership feels that they need in terms of getting together. And that was done as a first step. What we found out was, in general, the pressing items were coming from basically planning board. And so what we developed was a docket, if you will, because also the community center, some other items are pressing, and we wanted to make sure that the council could see all of it and all of the moving parts with one document. This is fresh off the press. That's why it wasn't in your packet. We've been working on this furiously today. So if it's acceptable to the group, I'll share the screen. Is that all right? Is it happening?
Not yet.
Not yet still?
No, not yet.
Well, I've hit share screen, so.
There should be some choice of what you're sharing come up.
Right, and I'm clicking on that choice and then hitting share screen. So,
Jean Marie, I have it up if you'd like me to
would you
share it.
please? Yes, thank you.
Okay.
There you go. Thanks, Hank. So Hank, you'll have to be my hands and scroll up
Absolutely.
to the top, please.
Hey, can you enlarge it just a little bit too, please?
Yeah. So while he's setting that up, basically what you're going to see, folks, is on the far left axis are months of the year, going back to February and going through August of, I think, 2021. All right. And across the top, you're going to see the various projects that are considered priorities, whether it's a priority with council because it's already on our docket, or a priority with planning board, or because we've made commitments. So as you're seeing at the top, we've got some notes for consideration, but basically there's a subdivision that's gone through planning board and is ready to go through council. The budget, which we're in the midst of, obviously is on our docket. The community center, actually, guys, this is the wrong document, Hank. This isn't the most recent one I sent you at whatever time that was.
This was the one that you sent me this afternoon right before the meeting. Did you send out another one?
Tonight, just this afternoon. All right. Well, this is. That was the one before we did our post work. So much for item A, guys.
Jean Marie, this says that you sent this to me at 6 o'clock today, this evening.
Okay. All right. That is the initial draft. That is not the one that we've combed through and made our changes to today. So what I need to do is pull that one and send that to Hank. So I apologize, guys. Either we can move to something else and give me an extra minute, or what do you want to do, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I mean, I love the pretty pastels. That's very calming. And it's a good place to stay if we just had some nice music.
Yeah, here.
If you go ahead, Jean Marie, go ahead and send that to Hank, because I think if you believe this is pertinent to the items that are going to be following it, then we probably want to go ahead and take a look at it.
Okay, so I'm going to save it to a new file, and I'm sending it to you right now.
I sent it.
I did too.
I sent it to Hank.
Yeah.
The most recent one with the three.
Yes, because it has 3 columns in the green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hank has. Okay, I don't know why. Thank you, ladies. I thought I had sent him the most up-to-date one.
Joyce, can you send that document over to me, the one that's the most up to date? Because I got the older one.
You did? Okay.
Well,
I'll
then,
be glad to.
how would it
Actually,
look?
Ms. Walker, if you'll send that to all the council
To
members. that'd be
everybody.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
But wait a minute, I'm still concerned, guys. Hold on. Let me make sure we've got the right document. So saving to the desktop. One that I want here. Is this one. I know how I know it began.
Let's see.
Okay,
Is
should be it. Yep. You guys are on it.
All right.
Thank you.
okay. So you sent it out.
Good. So everyone now has the correct one.
Okay.
Is looking at the right one. So apologies again, thanks for the indulgence. The intent is to try to provide a visual that's to be helpful, not to be wonky. So let's try this again. So what you see at the top of your screen, Hank, you're the scroller. Hank? You're handling the scrolling. Okay. Where were we? We were at the community center. The community center is color-coded green because there are 3 different moving parts as it relates to the community center, and the mayor can speak to many of these as well as Hank and Pam. Jeff Zanger has a downtown development project in orange, and then 160D, as you all know from Bo's educating us, is an important thing coming down the pike. So this is a snapshot for you all of the important projects and priorities as of right now. There'll be more coming, but we wanted to give you an update. So that being said, on the far left-hand corner, as you can kind of scroll down, Hank, you can see that we take all of these projects and we show you through a bolding of various dates what needs to be done by when to stay on certain timelines. And what we did, Mr. Mayor and Pam, is we took the ADW, the information that you had provided, Mr. Mayor, with the certain key timelines to hit, and we incorporated those as well as some of the requirements of the bank, as well as the LGC, which stands for Local Governing Commission. Is that correct?
Commission, yes.
Okay. So
Now,
with that,
Hank, real quickly, is this the most recent schedule from ADW?
I haven't had a chance to compare it with the ADW. I'm trusting that Jean Marie's got the dates pulled in.
Okay.
we think we did. And again, Mike, this was our first sort of stab based on what we had. We were working off of the magic thing that we were working off of was, I think, the June the 12th. What was it?
June the 12th is an important date.
June the 12th permit pulling and presentation, right, folks?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the big picture. And what this ties to is what we're going to be doing in terms of resolutions and setting public hearings and going forward. So we wanted to make sure, especially since Mr. Franklin brought up in the past, do we want to push back some of the meetings in June? We wanted to give you a sense of all these moving parts that are happening. This is a quick snapshot, everything from the deadlines we have to hit to send to newspapers, to what planning board would have to do and what kind of special meetings would have to be called and what's out of the norm. So there it is. I'll pause there and let you, Mr. Mayor, Hank, et cetera, the rest of the crew run with it.
This is, for me, this is really, really helpful. And Jimmy, I know you guys have put a lot of work into this, because now, rather than just having these dates floating around in our head someplace and knowing that we've got them coming up, we really have a chart to tick back to so that we can make sure we hit those deadlines on projects. Again, recognizing that there's going to be some flexibility in some of these dates and that they'll be updated accordingly. This really helps me understand workflow and the things that we have to be doing as a staff and as a council. I think that I haven't had a chance to really read all of this specifically, but it looks like it's a great tool.
What we tried to pull out was, specifically for tonight, some of the decisions that would have to be made by council tonight to make sure we're hitting some of these priorities. Is that fair, Hank, Stacy, Joyce?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Council members, I'm sure you're going to want to digest this a little bit, but any comments?
Yes, I want to say how helpful it is. The color coding and just having a spreadsheet, you can really get a sense of what's due when and what comes before and after. So thank you each for all the hard work and time you put into it.
And I'd like to make a comment, again, just kind of echoing what's already been said, but this looks fantastic. I think that this will give us some great leeway in how we communicate with each other and our great support in how we communicate with each other. So thank you guys for doing this.
Terrific. Okay, with that as the backdrop, we will move forward. I'm guessing, Hank, this will be updated prior to every briefing?
Yes, what we can end up doing
following every briefing or following every meeting?
as we have changes that happen, and they probably will, we will update the changes and have that available.
Very good. And I know we have a foolproof way of knowing that we always have the most latest version in front of us. Otherwise, I'll be working 2 months behind.
Yeah. And while you're moving forward, Mr. Mayor, I would be remiss if I didn't say this was initiated back when I was on the planning board with my good buddy, Joseph Hamby, young, capable guy who put together the original format for stuff we were working on planning board. And I just brought some of that formatting forward. So I at least want to give a shout out to Joseph for that. So
thank you, Joseph. I hope you're watching.
Yep.
It's not often you get kudos on TV6. So congratulations. Alrighty, with that, ready to move on to the resolution 202-0028. And this is, Bo, I think you're going to handle this. This is amending the remote meeting participation policy.
Yes, and I've got to find it here. So we did talk about this last week, and I'm having a little trouble finding it here. Where's my thing on that? Didn't know I was going to be the one. Not that that's the problem. One of the things that has happened recently is we had new legislation that was effective on May 4th of this year that changed the remote meeting policy. The good news is the town is already meeting almost everything, and now I think we are now meeting it all. I guess the biggest change that's cosmetically noted is the roll call votes. And then the other big thing that's noted, and it will have an impact on some scheduling matters, is that whenever we have a public hearing of any kind, that in order to assure full compliance by or full participation by the public, there is a 24-hour period following any public hearing to allow anyone to submit additional written information to the town, and so that the council can consider it. And so what will have to happen is that following a public hearing, there will have to be at least a 24-hour period in order to allow that comment to take place. And then after that, the council can have another meeting. Well, they can, what I'm going to recommend is that you recess meetings in which there are public hearings, and then you can recess them to a time, I recommend at least 48 or 72 hours later, so that the 24-hour period can run. Some of our meetings, as everyone knows, can run a little bit late into the evening, and a 24-hour period would require you to start a meeting at 9:30, 10 o'clock the next day. So if we have them a little bit in 48 hours or 72 hours later, then we'll have a little bit more leeway. So that will come into play as we have public hearings. And then finally, there is reference here in the new policy to a provision to allow boards and committees to meet remotely. Again, it does not require, but it authorizes, just as the state legislation does not require remote meetings, but it authorizes them. Our remote policy previously only applied to town council, and this new policy would allow boards and committees to meet remotely whenever the town has declared a state of emergency. And we are presently under a state of emergency in this town, although some of the provisions of the amendments have been, they've elapsed. We still have our underlying declaration that the mayor did back in March. That's still in place. So it would apply if it were to be passed. And so it allows the boards and committees, again, to meet remotely. I know that Joyce has already undertaken to poll the various members of the boards and committees to see what their capacity is for meeting remotely and these sorts of things. So that's essentially what it's about. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions. Let me tap this link here to the remote participation policy. I think I have covered pretty much all of the essentials of it. I don't want to belabor it too much, and we did talk about it to some extent last week. So be happy to try to answer any questions that there might be, and otherwise, and let others participate in this as well.
We have any questions for Bo? Ms. Foster.
It's less a question, it's just more of a, Mike, and I need your help with this. Remember we talked about a part 1 and a part 2 to this policy? So this policy is tied to a state of emergency being declared by the General Assembly and or the governor, right?
Correct.
Or the mayor. So if it does not allow, if we don't have a state of emergency, therefore, for there to be any kind of meetings. So that's something to keep in mind as we're looking at the timeline, depending upon what we choose to do going forward.
Yeah, that'll be a future discussion by the council to make a determination if they want to allow remote participation to boards and committees on council meetings outside of a state of emergency.
And forgive me, the way it's crafted, it allows some flexibility, because for the boards and committees, this applies to the mayor's declaration of emergency, because the state declaration of emergency already kind of deals with how remote participation policy is going to take place. So as long as the mayor wishes to leave in place, because there may be a generalized need for the boards and committees to continue to meet remotely, he can leave that in place. And so the part 1 can go on for as long as you need it to, as long as the mayor determines that a state of emergency applies. In the meantime, if you want to start looking at doing a part 2 to this, then certainly that can be done. But this will certainly allow boards and committees for the foreseeable future, even assuming that the governor if he were to end the declaration of state of emergency for the state tomorrow, we would still have this in place.
If I could make one comment too, this lends itself really well to a global pandemic involving an epidemic. We could have a state of emergency called in the future, It just doesn't require people to meet remotely. It allows people to go from point A to point B, and physical meetings are not a problem. But this, you know, if we ever have stay-at-home orders again under states of emergency, we'll be covered for this policy.
Great. Any additional questions? Very good. We'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution. Mr. Smitherman makes the motion. Ms. Welch makes the second. Any further discussion? Very good. Mr. Smitherman.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Stacy, you have an update and resolution for us on Longwood Village subdivision. I believe we're going to be setting a public hearing.
Yes, this case is for a rezoning. We talked a little bit about it last week, I believe, or last month. I can't keep it all straight, but we would need to adopt a resolution in order to set this public hearing for June the 11th. Again, this has been to planning board. They have already heard this case. It's been through public hearing with them. It does require rezoning. And so, unfortunately, the pandemic hit and everything before it could make its way to town council. So that would tie up all the loose ends for this particular case.
Any questions for Stacy?
No question for Stacy, but also a request of Hank. Can you pull up that document real quickly because it shows the flow for what needs to happen with this, for this particular resolution? And we're talking it through. It's on the far left in the reddish. Okay.
Stacy, for viewers, can you please give kind of some location as to where this is located at?
It is located on Louisville Clemens Road. A portion of it is on the Kaplan property, if that's helpful.
Near the Presbyterian Church.
And Stacy, can you review what the planning board, the vote was, the recommendation?
The vote was a 5-1 vote for recommending approval for the subdivision, and all that information will be in the public hearing on the 11th as well, with maps and all that good stuff.
We'll get a much more detailed briefing then.
Correct. Yeah. This is just the resolution in order to set the public hearing for this rezoning.
So looking at the document, just making this real time, you can see council was briefed May 14th. Then we were looking to have a public hearing for tonight. And then you can see what has to happen internally. A couple of newspapers, advertisements have to be run to meet state statute, and then boom, June 11th. So this was an easy one. We just use this as an example. Okay, thanks.
One question, guys, with the 24 hours rules, are we going to worry about setting a special meeting now, or just do this for this subdivision at a later date?
Let me recommend that at that meeting, you determine, you can do it then. What I recommend is at any meeting where you have a public hearing, that you not adjourn that meeting, but that you recess that meeting to a time that you determine is best, and you can work with everyone's calendars and you can announce it. It won't leave any required further publication or anything like that.
Very good. Thank you, Bob.
Hey, let's go back to our big screen, Hank, if we could.
All right.
Well, I can make a motion.
I have a question.
Dr. Sadler, yeah.
The individual who opposed this change, do you recall what the opposition was about?
That was one of the planning board members. They were in opposition due to the property being going from commercial to a residential zoning district. There was some concerns about that, but with the final vote being 5-1, that one individual voted in the negative because of that reason. Because the property was not going to stay commercial for a commercial opportunity for the town.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. We also probably should note here too that during our public hearing, we will have both the petitioner and the petitioner's representative participating in the video Zoom portion of it so that we can ask questions directly.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Foster, I think you were about ready to make a motion.
Yes, I can make a motion to set the public hearing for June 11th for this particular subdivision, Longwood.
Is there a second? Ms. Welch makes the second. Any further discussion? Very good. Mr. Smithman?
Approve.
Ms. Welch? Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Ms. Walker, you saw Ms. Welch's mouth move and it was an aye.
Jane, would you mind terribly unmuting and saying it aloud?
Yeah, it has to be.
Aye, sorry.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Who did I miss in that 4A? I think
Yourself.
the mayor. The mayor's aye. Okay, very good. That passes 7-0. Hank, you have our next resolution to set a public hearing to receive public comment on the budget.
That's correct. We have Resolution 2020027, setting the public hearing for Thursday, June 11th, to receive public comments on the 2020-2021 budget. And as Bo said, after that, we will, I guess, recess the meeting until sometime, probably the early next week on Monday.
Very good. Any questions for Hank? Again, we'll have another recap and discussion on the budget at those meetings, at the public hearings.
We can have a question.
Very good. Dr. Sadler, do you have a question? You're making a motion.
No, I have a question first. I know that at our last meeting, Mr. Franklin suggested a change in those dates. I don't want to go through with approving a resolution if we're going to reconsider the dates. So my question is to him, is he dropping that request?
Oops, trying to hit the button there. No, I'm not. I would still love for us to be, especially for the budget, live. It may not happen this year. I recognize that, but that's my feelings. So it's up to the rest of the council members in what way you want to proceed.
Well, if the meeting can still be held live, Mr. Franklin, by that time, we don't know what the governor is going to say prior to that time, but I don't know that the public hearing will be invalidated. I mean, the notices that were going to be noticed, we will, and Joyce and I may have to talk about this, about how we word the notice of the meeting, of the public hearing. We'll conduct it whichever way we can, and perhaps it can still be done live in some manner or another, but setting it for, it's not the date that bothers you, is it, Mr. Franklin, or is just the manner of doing the meeting?
It's definitely not the date. I mean, that was our normal scheduled meeting. It's the manner in which these meetings are being conducted.
Very good.
Oh, what about the idea of setting the date, and then if it looks like we will be able to get in person, then to continue it into a later date in the month, as Councilman Franklin has suggested, and then to finish it up and give more opportunity for discussion?
Well, if we still conduct our meeting, and I think we're kind of duty bound to do that as a generally noticed meeting, our regular meeting, and then if we want to open a public hearing and then continue it so that it can be, assuming that it looks like we can be have a live meeting, we could certainly do that, Mr. Franklin, if that makes sense, in the way I've perhaps not very articulately said it. But if we get to close to the regular meeting and it looks like if we can just go a little bit further out and have it live, then we can continue the public hearing at the regular meeting and say we're going to have that public hearing whichever day may make sense.
I'm not going to fight this. Look, guys, I wouldn't give blood today at a blood drive. You can get out and you can do the right things at the right time. So whatever's consensus of the group, I'm in for it.
Well, I like your and Hank's suggestion that if it appears, like right now we're operating on the premise that the governor is going to be issuing additional orders that may affect the public gathering opportunities. But I suggest we stay with the current scheduling because of the advertising, because it generally occurs in a sequence of events. But when we get to that point, if it appears that the governor is going to allow public participation in larger numbers than 10, we can make that adjustment at that point. Is everybody good with that?
Mhm. That makes
Very
sense.
good. Thank you.
Then I'll make the motion.
Very good. Dr. Sadler makes the motion to approve the public hearing for the budget. Is there a second?
I'll
Ms.
second.
Foster makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Yeah.
Mayor is aye, so that is unanimous, setting the public hearing for Thursday, June 11th. Very good. Hank, we have another resolution for public hearing.
Yes, this is resolution 2020033. This is setting a public hearing for Thursday, June 4th. That would be our briefing at 6:00 p.m. to receive public comments on the rezoning of the property at 7632 Warren Park Drive from RS20 to IP. The reason we have this, and I think Jean Marie laid it out wonderfully on her spreadsheet, was that we have some timelines that have been held up for several projects. The community center project being one of them. As we discussed last time, the General Assembly has armed us now with the ability to do the public hearings and how we handle those under a remote process. We have a schedule that has permitting for the community center to go, if we're able to keep the schedule up, on Friday, June 12th. So in order to hit that permitting window, we need to be able to rezone the property and to do a combination of it before such time as that June 12th meeting comes in. So we set the public hearing, or recommending setting the public hearing for the rezoning of this property, of the town's property, on the 4th, so that we can accomplish the rezoning in time for the engineering and the architects to be able to hit the permitting deadline on Friday the 12th.
Mhm.
Any questions for Hank? Not, we'll entertain a motion. Mr. Smitherman makes the motion. You do need a second. Dr. Sadler makes a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. Hank, so you said that, so what will the planning board have reviewed this already?
No, that's a separate process that I think you also had on your timeline.
Right, we got
I'm
it. So-
just, right, I'm just going over what the town council's action would be. It is locked to the process for the planning board, and the planning board being able to adhere to a schedule as well.
Right.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry. Who made the motion and second? I
Mr.
didn't hear.
Smitherman made the motion. Dr. Sadler made the second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Yeah.
Mayor is aye as well. That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
If I could add one point of information, I think that this will make Ms. Foster feel a little bit better. To be able to do this, we are asking not only the town council to change the normal way it handles public hearings in this manner, the same is true for the planning board. We have been backed up because of the virus, and then just been recently been given the tools to be able to do this. So what we will be asking the town council and the planning board is to set a process to hopefully get us and keep us on track for the current schedule for the community center. And I know that's a big ask for both boards, but it's an important timeline to be flexible with from both boards in order to hit the dates that we need to keep the project on as close to the schedule as we've been trying to adhere to from day one.
I'd like to add too, Hank, that if we do the town council public hearing on June 4th, that's going to require the planning board to call 3 special meetings in order to make that happen for the rezoning, because it has to go through planning board for a public hearing first. Normally that takes about 2.5 months on a fast track. So this is definitely very, very fast and from what we're used to. But it's also going to be out of the norm for the notifications that we run in newspaper ads. Normally we run those on Sundays. So we're going to have to go kind of against the grain to put ads in the newspaper on days of the week in order to meet that requirement, in which the town normally does those always on Sundays, because the mass circulation is usually on Sundays and not on a particular day during the week. So there's quite a bit that's out of the norm for this process to fast track this.
Right, and we're a little ahead of our
compliance with the general statutes regarding notice requirements and hearings.
So, but the planning board has not been plugged into their piece of this beyond what has happened already. But it is unusual in that it's owned by the town. We understand what the use is going to be, et cetera. So that was my hiccup.
Very good. Any further? We've already had the vote, but I guess we could continue our discussion or we can move on.
Can move on.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker, you have 2 items for us to collect taxes.
Yes, these are very, very important items. Ordinance 2020-022 is the order to collect the 2020 taxes by the Forsyth County tax collector. And Pam, would you like to tell them about the percentage or whatever, since we have new council members, and give them some updates on that?
Yeah, simply put, the Forsyth County, we pay them 1% of all collections for property taxes as their collection fee. And it's as simple as that.
Very good. Any questions from Ms. Walker?
Oh, quick question for Pam. Is that the normal amount that most towns pay at 1% of collected taxes?
I'm not sure about most towns outside of Forsyth County. I would imagine we're probably being treated the same as other municipalities in Forsyth County. That's my guess.
Ms. Welsh, I know from my experience that number can vary slightly, but it will not be that much varied from what we're paying.
And that's set by the tax collector in each county, so that's why there'll be some variance among counties in North Carolina, but we're all on the same page in Forsyth. Very good. Any additional questions? That will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Ms. Welch makes the motion. Mr. Franklin makes the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman.
Approve.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor is aye. That is unanimous. The second part of it, Mrs. Walker, more tax collections.
The second ordinance is 2020-023, and that's the order to collect your back taxes from 2019 and 10 years back.
Questions from Ms. Walker? Entertain a motion. Mr. Franklin makes a motion. Mrs. Hunt makes the second. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Dr. Seidler.
Well, looking back over the prior years beyond 2019, approximately how much is outstanding? Do we know?
We wouldn't have that information. That Pam might have it. Pam, do you have that?
You're muted, Pam.
Approximately $20,000 is outstanding for prior years at any one time.
How typical is it for properties to be liened or foreclosed as a result of, back taxes in Lewis?
That might be a question for Bo.
I can speak to that a little bit. I think we probably have maybe 10 or 12 tax foreclosure matters going right now. Those are done. Again, the Forsyth County collects all of those, applies the liens. I can't tell you the time frame in which they get after these folks, but it's generally a few years down the line, typically maybe 2 years, maybe tightening up now. But it's a little ways down. They don't get them shortly after they're delinquent as quickly as they should. They do a lot of things to try to get them before they place the lien on the property. And then they foreclose that. Property tax liens, by the way, and many of you may already know this, come ahead even of deeds of trust and mortgages. So that when people have mortgages on their property, typically escrow takes care of making sure that gets paid. But for folks who have paid off their properties, those are the ones that we see the problems with typically. And I think in my files, again, I don't do those collections. Forsyth County has someone they hire outside. But we do get served with each and every one of those complaints that has to do with Louisville property, and I probably have 10 or 12 of them outstanding in my files.
Thank you.
Very good. Any additional questions? With that, we'll entertain a motion.
You've got the motion in.
Got it.
I'm sorry. Thank you. This is after discussion part. Thank you. Mr. Smitherman,
I approve.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Mayor also approves. That is unanimous. Okay, Ryan, you have some sidewalk repairs.
Yes.
For us.
Yes, sir. We spoke about this Monday at the budget meeting a little bit. I believe Joyce has sent each one of you the survey from Precision Safe Sidewalks. They're the folks that won the bid, the low bid. They will be coming out and shaving trip hazards through downtown and through the Dryden Park neighborhood.
Very good. Council, we did discuss this at briefing. Any questions for Ryan?
We're asking you guys to approve ordinance 2020-013. This is a budget amendment.
Any additional questions? Not, we'll entertain a motion. Mr. Smitherman makes a motion. You need a second. Mr. Franklin makes a second. Guys are moving all over my screen, so I'm having trouble keeping track of you. You're moving from top to bottom and left to right, so I'll try to keep from getting too dizzy. Ms. Hunt.
Mayor, I have a question. Actually, Ryan, when are these, what's the projected start on these?
I hope for them to start the first week, actually, yeah, the first week of June. And they should be done within 12 days. And then that'll lead up to the repair job that I'll talk about here in just a second.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Any other questions? Okay, with that, Mr. Smitherman,
Approve.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Foster. Need an audio, Ms. Foster.
Aye. I'm sorry.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor is aye. That is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Ryan, you have the next item as well.
Yes, this contract will be with Atlantic Coast Concrete. They will be replacing the sidewalk where it cannot be shaved, where it's too buckled to shave, too far gone.
This is the contract for the other part.
I'm sorry.
This is the award of the contract for the Precision folks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Resolution.
That's the resolution.
Mhm.
Okay. So it's
It's the accompanying resolution. I don't know if there's any more discussion.
Yeah, really, there's just the awarding of the
I'm sorry.
contract.
I
Any
make a
questions
motion.
on the awarding of the contract? Ms. Foster appears makes the motion.
Yes.
I'll second.
Ms. Welch makes the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman,
Approve.
Ms. Welch,
Yes.
Dr.
Aye.
Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor's also an aye. That's unanimous. Now, Ryan, I didn't get us up to the right point quickly enough.
I'm-
We're now to the I guess to our budget ordinance 202-0024.
I apologize. I was jumping ahead myself. So this area is an area that's right behind Lowe's Food Shopping Center on Shalford Road. The trees, unfortunately, were planted too close to the sidewalk and they have some severe buckling. This will be where Great Wagon Road will eventually be. We're going to have to take the trees out, but we're going to replace the sidewalks right now, and I'm going to soon be getting quotes to take the trees out. But in the amount of $2,800, they will be replacing the sidewalk where needed.
Got any questions for Ryan?
Yeah, I do.
Question.
Yeah,
Ms. Franklin?
Go ahead,
I've
Fred.
got-
Yes, sir.
Between the ordinance 2020-024 and the resolution 2020-029, there is a $10,000 difference there. Where the previous ordinance and resolution that we just passed, they were identical. I need somebody to explain that to me.
Pam, you want to answer that?
Pam got kicked off. Hold on a sec. Let
Oh.
me clear that up. That is not a typo. We already had
Say we
$10,000.
move forward there. Here we are.
We already had $10,000 in the budget. We're just adding the $2,800 to bring it up to the needed amount.
Franklin, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good with that. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance 2020-024.
Franklin makes a motion. Mr. Smitherman makes a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman,
I approve.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Yes, aye.
Mayor's aye also. So that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Now we're down to resolution 202-0029, and this is the awarding of the contract.
So this is the whole contract, partly there in front of Lowe's Food Shopping Center, all of downtown, and then some areas in Dryden Park. No, I'm sorry. There weren't areas in Dryden Park. I apologize. So the downtown, the areas that are too far gone to be shaved, they will replace those trip hazards in downtown. And in Shalford Square.
Shelford Square, okay.
Yes.
Any questions for Ryan? Take a motion.
You mentioned, yes, yeah, I got a question for Ryan. Ryan, you mentioned something about you're getting quotes or you're going to bring to us the tree removal. I would assume that it'd be more prudent to have the trees removed prior to trying to put new concrete down, since the trees are what buckled up the concrete to start with.
Hank and I talked about that, and I'm going to try to do it right after. They're going to dig through the trees right away, the tree roots. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. We'll jump on into it as soon as we can.
Ms. Hunt?
Ryan, so
Yes,
just
ma'am.
to piggyback off of Mr. Franklin's comment or question there, can you just give me some insight? So they're going to dig through the roots. I guess I'm also confused as to why. Can you just talk a little bit more, expand on that a little bit more as to why we wouldn't remove the trees first and then put the sidewalk down?
Yeah. Another reasoning behind this, and I understand where you all are coming from. There's a whole lot of cost savings by them being in town, downtown, the $2,800 would go up dramatically because it's such a small area if they had to come back a separate time. But I understand where you all are coming from as far as the trees.
So they're going to do this concurrent to this June 1st start date. That's the 12 days. And then they're going to go and do this other area while they're in town. Is that what
Actually, Precision Safe Sidewalk is going to come in and shave the sidewalks. They're going to get them down to the level they need to be at to be safe. And then this other company, Atlantic Coast Concrete, is going to come in and bust up what's bad and pour back to the shaved areas, if that makes sense.
okay? And then we're going to go through a process of getting bids on removal of the trees, and then that could be a few weeks out from there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And there's not, I believe, I may be misspeaking, but I think there's about 6 trees. If we could just get them down, I mean, of course, if you cut them down, they're not going to grow anymore, and then worry about the stumps at a later date. If we worry about the stumps, because I mean, that's going to be another added cost. The trees are not going to be able to be there when the Great Wagon Road comes through.
Any more questions? Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
we're shaving the sidewalk. I'm sorry, Ms. Welch, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, that's just hard to picture, Ryan, that those stumps will be there. Is there any kind of guarantee from the company, that Atlantic Coast, that if after we take the trees down, the sidewalk gets messed up, that they'll come back?
Well, let me see.
I guess the
I mean,
crux
I'm
of the
not-
question here is,
I'm sorry.
I guess we're at least I'm gathering the discussion here. The crux of the matter is, should we take the trees out prior to doing
Correct.
the concrete work? And I guess that would be where we would need the explanation.
And the good thing is this is a local company. They're from Clemens. So he's not far away. If you all feel that this $2,800 area is a problem, we could wait until the trees were removed and then spend that money. I can speak to him about that.
Ryan, quick question for us. I assume
Yes, sir.
that the sidewalk folks that are going to do this, they understand that the trees are there and they're to do their sidewalk repairs in the presence of the trees, digging through whatever needs to be done. I would think, although we can't confirm it, that this company is experienced enough to know that if they had a caution or a problem with this, they would probably voice that. The second part is that if we really delay this work, is there a good chance that we will not get it accomplished within this fiscal year?
That's possible. I have some folks that I can call and they could probably be out here next week to take the trees down, but that's going to be another cost.
One that we
I
probably
could easily get somebody.
Yeah, Ryan,
sorry,
we'll incur
man.
that cost anyway, though, right? At some point.
Yes, sir.
And Ryan, that would be the trees and the stumps, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Well, could be. I mean, I would like to see the stumps going. I don't want to look at stumps either.
So I think my concern, Ryan, I mean, I've had some trees removed from my property, and when they go to grind stumps, I mean, it can be a little bit of a messy project. And if we're laying concrete and it's current, you know, whatever that word is, where it kind of sets itself, and then we've got to wait. I mean, then I think to your point, Hank, about getting it in the fiscal year, we still are going to probably be along the same timeline, whether we pull the trees first or put the sidewalk down first.
Yeah.
Just due to all of
The
that.
only
So,
the other thing that we are
I'm underneath the impression that we pull those trees out first and stump grind and then have the sidewalk company come in. That's my thoughts.
more than likely, if we are going to do the trees, it's going to require a budget amendment. the budget amendment would have to have been done in the June meeting. And then that sets the entire project back a month.
Okay, I understand that. Thank you.
Council, what's your pleasure? Proceed with the project as is proposed, or do we want to go ahead and reorganize the process, knowing that we'll have an additional, hey, we have a, when would we do the budget amendment? We would have to do the budget amendments. We're meeting the 4th of June, correct?
That's correct. We could do it in 4th of June unless we had a special meeting ahead of that.
Gotcha. And they are planning on starting work when? For the sidewalk?
Atlantic Coast is planning on starting the last week of this month, or the first couple days of, the last couple days of this month or the first couple days of June.
I make a motion to go ahead.
Yeah.
Mr. Franklin?
I said I was going to make a motion to go ahead and approve this resolution. Ryan is the acting Public Works Director. I guess it's time for him to see if he can bring projects in.
I'll second.
Right.
Franklin makes the motion. Ms. Foster makes the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Approve.
Ms. Welch?
No.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Nay.
Franklin?
Yeah, oh yes.
Mayor goes ahead and is a yay as well. So we are 5-2, Mrs. Walker. Upcoming events, Charlotte Square, Hank.
The only thing I've got,
Be a short
and
report, won't it?
yeah, this is, we have a town holiday on the 25th for Memorial Day.
Very good. Do we have any, we still don't have any indication. We're just waiting on the governor's executive orders.
Yeah, what we're waiting on here too is we're currently, for the sake of this thing, whether it's indoor or outdoor, we're still restrained to 10 more for it. I'm really kind of thinking that this concert is going to be impossible to do, given the crowds that we have gotten in the past. I feel sure that if we are allowed to do this, there's going to be a lot of restrictions, not a lot of restrictions, but probably restrictions to not only the numbers of people that we could easily go over, as well as social distancing and masks and of that nature. We're going to wait and see what the governor does, but we're not holding a lot of hope that they're going to do anything after the 22nd. If it does change, it's going to allow us to pull an event off like this.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, I think you have 2 updates for us. You probably have more since we started talking. But number 1, I think, get an update on our Part F grant. We sent it to the Part F folks to get their comments.
Yeah, it's. I heard today that Recreation Resources staff, our person there, has reviewed it. He says our application looks fine. We're in the process of finalizing that application and gathering the final minutes from the meetings that the council had to approve the process. And we should be well ahead of the June 1st deadline.
Very good. It looked fine or it looked great? Was he excited? Did he jump up and down?
I don't know. I didn't talk to, I had an email from Jim Ford that said that it looked good, and let's wrap it up. But it's been reviewed by them, and the application is complete, and we're moving forward.
Great. Thank you very much. That's a big chunk of change for us. We also have an update on Vienna Village.
Yeah, I've got the Vienna Village, and then I have at least 2 more after that as well. But I'm going to recognize Ryan Moser. He was supposed to come back and give everyone some idea of how much the materials would be for the signage.
So I came up with a total cost of around $200 per sign. That includes the sign, the U-channel post, and the stop, and hardware to install it.
Very good. And we were waiting on those costs to make the decision to go ahead and install. Is that correct?
I think we had some conversation about whether or not we were going to institute a policy that guides this, and
that's
try
good.
to do that
Before we
with
install.
ESAC at some early date.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that, reminding us of that. Okay, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a briefing the first Thursday of every month, and at that briefing, we take action on occasion. We'd like to report out those actions at this time so that you're aware of the I'm sorry, Mr. Manager, you have a hand?
I do have a couple more things to run over in my report just so I can get some feedback from
Very
council
good, go
on it.
ahead.
One thing that I need to get some feedback, and Pam is here with me in the office after she had some technical difficulties, so she can back me up on it. When we met last, we talked about the liability issue with the sheriff's office, and I believe we had general consensus that we were good with having that amount of the liability or the claims payment go into it, absolving us of being sought after for reimbursement. They have given us one more thing to consider. And during the budget process, you will remember that we always go over an estimate given to us for the upcoming year from the sheriff's office. And as we've also talked about in previous meetings, there's what we refer to as a fourth quarter true up. The estimate during the year is only an estimate. The fourth quarter true up is designed to take actual costs during the year over or under the estimate that we've been paying, and then reconcile and make sure that we've paid our fair share of the costs. What they are asking us for is whether or not we would like to accept that estimate that we've already been over through the budget time and use that as the final and definitive cost for the contract for the town of Louisville for the sheriff's office. In reviewing our past history on the fourth quarter true up, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, out of the previous 6 years, at least 5 of those, we've received a refund or a reduction in the fourth quarter true up. So staff's recommendation is probably just to leave it alone as is, given our history on that fourth quarter true up. But we welcome anyone to ask questions or give their opinions.
Your thoughts, Council? You know this will be a year that we get a true up. Any direction for our manager? Accept his recommendation, he and the financial director's recommendation? Stick with the original process then, I guess, Mr. Manager.
Thank you. What will happen at this point is we will bring forth the interlocal agreement in June's meeting for approval by the town council. That will set our agreement for the upcoming fiscal year.
Very good.
All right, moving on, I have one more thing to cover for the information purposes for the board. And this is not really new information. I think I've covered this type of situation with the DOT in the past. They've had financial difficulties in the past, and they have been compounded by the current virus situation and their lack of gasoline sales that generates revenue sources for them. Last Tuesday, they sent me an email, and what it basically says is that because of the current situation with them, they're going to have to delay our reimbursements on anything that we have done, certainly after that that date, that email that they sent us. For us, we haven't started another project, and I'm not recommending that we do at this point, but we do have the Gateway project where we were almost finished. We're at 100% plans that we're trying to wrap up. We also have about 10 or 11 property owners where we're more than 50% through with the negotiations and the acquisition of the right-of-way. So what I'm sort of giving you as my recommendation and how we handle this is that we proceed with wrapping up right-of-way acquisition for the Gateway project and proceed with wrapping up the plans and specifications for the project. Close this project out for now until the state of North Carolina is at a point in the future where they can not only authorize us to proceed to the construction of the Gateway project, but then tell us when they were able to start reimbursing us for expenses. Does everybody understand that?
Mm-hmm.
So your question to us is, should we go ahead and from our reserve, go ahead and conclude those purchases and conclude the engineering plans and then we can just wait on reimbursement for that. We're not jeopardizing the reimbursement, it's just postponing.
No, what they're doing is just talking about delaying reimbursement. The sad part with them, and they apologize, is that they don't really know when that's going to be happening. They'll give us further guidance. At this point, it's a delay to an unspecified date in the future.
Very good. Council, what are your thoughts? Move ahead. I think heads are nodding.
Yeah, I think that's a really good move because we're so close to it. If we were to stop now and come back and it's a year from now, we've still got four properties out there. It's just a mess. It's already going to be sticky enough with the age of the project at that point. We at least need to get everything that we're working on finalized, and they will reimburse us at some point. We just don't know when that's going to happen.
Well, if we have all that work done, if they have to prioritize the restart, we'll be at the top of near the top of the list of the restart.
That is correct, and that fits in with the information that they've given us previously, that they'll start backfilling events first by those that are willing to ready to go to construction. If we do not get ready to construction right now, we still have that in front of us when they restart.
Mr. Howe?
Yes, Hank, while I'm thinking about it, considering the timing of it, is there any timing related to our TCEs associated with this project? And we might need to go back and talk to some of these landowners about that, because I just can't recall how we structure those TCEs.
What's a TCE?
I'm sorry, temporary construction.
Okay.
No doubt there probably is. I think, Bo, you and I have had discussions over previous projects in the past. TCEs don't last forever, but at least we can go ahead and get the real acquisition taken care of and then deal with any kind of, I guess, redoing of the TCEs and utility easements at that time.
Very good.
Trust you'll cross all the T's and dot all the I's.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Franklin, either you had unexpected visitors arrive or you're eating chicken livers. I don't know which one it is. Hank, anything else for us?
No, sir. That's it for my report.
Okay, I had a question, please. You mentioned about Vienna Village, and then we didn't discuss anything after Ryan mentioned $200 each for the signs. I was wondering, where do we go from here? And did you speak to Vienna Village to see if they would be willing to participate in the cost?
I don't think we've had that conversation yet with them, but when we finished and concluded the cost estimates, we did kick back to the conversation from the council that if we were to engage in placing these signs out there, that we needed to do so after we've had an opportunity to develop a policy.
And when
So
is that going to come about?
That's going to come into play a lot with what boards and committees are getting into. We alluded a little bit about that with conversation with Jean Marie Foster, but there is a lot more detail to that, and probably we can be at a place at a future date to give us more of a sense for how these boards and committees will meet in the future.
And I would think it would be reasonable, because I hear what Jane is wanting is, a timeline for like at least an update. I would think at least at the next either briefing or regular meeting, we could give
certainly
an update from the board perspective.
For anything else, unless we want to go ahead and engage in some sort of PSAC activities for this on this issue, we will definitely have a conversation with Vienna Village and gauge their willingness to participate financially in the cost of this project.
Well, staff will also begin drafting a policy for consideration by PSAC.
That's correct.
Yep.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we were saying before, ladies and gentlemen, we take actions at our briefings, which are the first Thursday of every month. Our manager will report out those actions so that you have a complete picture of what your council has been doing.
I have an announcement.
Yes, Joyce has an announcement.
Mrs. Walker. Okay.
I had technical difficulties and had to move in here also. I just wanted to let everyone know that the Special Projects Review Committee will be meeting next month following the briefing to approve minutes that have been hanging out there.
Meeting when?
Next month after the briefing.
Thank you.
I believe that's Mr. Smitherman, Mrs. Welch, and Ms. Hunt.
Ms. Hunt.
Ms. Hunt.
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Excellent. Hank, our briefing actions.
Okay, for approvals at the briefing and action meeting on April 2nd, we have, took care of ordinance 2020-021, amending the budget ordinance 2019-009-001 in an amount of $2,950 for tree removal and cleanup at the Moser property on Louisville-Vienna Road to include cut and takedown of storm damaged trees at the drive entrance. We also had consideration approval of resolution 2020-030, authorizing the town manager to award the spring paving contract to Yadkin Valley Paving Incorporated of Winston-Salem in an amount not to exceed $263,309.07 for specific treatments for each road as described in the attached contract for Sequoia Drive, Yakima Court, Conrad Circle, and Jennings Road. And that's it.
Very good. Hank, I believe I saw somebody joining us in the waiting area.
We have someone that is watching through software, and I have a first name,
Okay.
but he is not calling in as through the directions, so I don't know how you want to handle that.
So he could
Right now,
participate through the public forum if he wished.
he could, but we really don't have a way to figure that out for him because it's not a telephone call. We'd have to just recognize him and allow him to speak and see if he has anything to say.
Well, why don't we do that and see how that works? Eventually, we'll want to get to where we can do this pretty efficiently. We're now at the second opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, for public comments. And since we have somebody who has joined us on Zoom, if they wish to make a public comment, please state your name and address. And I believe the manager will unmute you. And if there's silence, we know you don't wish to have a comment.
I'm trying to unmute him, but it's not letting me.
He may not be unmuted himself.
Very good. Chris, if you would like to make a
Hey.
comment, you can unmute yourself.
You have to promote him to a panelist first.
Well, I
Okay.
was given the option to allow him to speak as an attendee, so I can do that if necessary, but right now. What are council's pleasures? You want me to make him a panelist or take his
Chris, you're our
silence
guinea
as-
pig. So we're gonna do a guinea pig with you. I hope we're not gonna catch you in an embarrassing situation. Yeah, let's make him a panelist.
Here he comes.
Hello, Chris. Do you have a comment you wish to make? Not hearing one? Thank you, Chris. We appreciate you
Hello.
participating by Zoom.
No, I
Oops.
just appreciate, I appreciate your efforts in helping us with our safety issues at Vienna Village. And I look forward to hearing from Hank about any proposals that we can assist with.
Very
It's
good.
yours.
For the record, will you give us your name and address, please?
Chris Parker, Vienna Village, 6601 Yadkinville Road.
Excellent. We have no one else waiting to give comment. Thank you, Chris. We're gonna mute you now, send you back to the dark side. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, like we said before, if you wish to make comments, you can send us an email at townclerk@louisvillenc.net. That's townclerk@louisvillenc.net. We'll make this part of our record. Council members, any comments in closing? I will have just a couple. Number one, it appears that we were flawless on TV6 tonight. Congratulations. It appears that we were flawless on Zoom. Congratulations. And it appears that we were flawless on Facebook tonight. So we have a number of people joining us on Facebook, and I'll get back to their comments in just a little bit. But thank you very much, staff. It looks like we're at least ready to go on to the next step to try to figure out how we do public participation. Good job. Ms. Hunt, I want to thank you for your suggestion about putting up banners, thanking our graduates. Mr. Moser, I want to thank you very much for getting out there very quickly this morning and getting them up. We have one at our gateway at 421 and in Williams Road. We have one at Louisville Clemens and 421. We have one in our square, and we have one up at Yadkinville Road and Louisville Vienna Road. So we've got all sections of the town covered. We hope you enjoy, residents. It's as several of you have pointed out, this is an unfortunate time because this is when there are proms and graduations, and many of our students have been looking forward to that, particularly graduating from college. And you're not going to be able to participate in that this year, but know that we're thinking of you, know that we're proud of you, and know that we expect you to do great things for Louisville in the future. Any other comments, council members?
Mayor, I just want to make a final comment. Just thanking staff. I mean, for those that are watching, staff has worked really, they've been very rigorous and working really hard on between budget meetings and everything else. So just kudos to you guys, and I appreciate your efforts in keeping us organized. So thanks, guys and ladies.
Mrs. Foster, thank you for your lovely chart. We will use it frequently, I bet.
Yes, I was saying this, and a special shout out to Jean Marie as a council member who's worked with this and spent, so much time, all of you.
Well, that's just the tip of the work that she's been doing. We're in the process of, as we say, rebooting our committees, and that's going to be a very exciting part of where we go in our new year. Any other comments, council members? With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Smitherman makes the motion. He has been very active making motions tonight. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Very good. Was that Ms. Hunt? Did you second?
No, Ms. Welch.
Ms. Welch second. Very good. Any further discussion? All righty, Mr. Smitherman.
Approve.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Bye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye and bye.
Mrs. Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Out of here.
Very good. Enjoy your chicken livers. With that, ladies and gentlemen, that is unanimous, and we are adjourned.